Effectiveness of monetary policy. Just give the brief elaboration. RBI, the mandate is to limit the headline inflation to 2 to 6% BAT. So what are the causes? So basically cost push basically means supply side, demand pull basically means demand side. So first supply demand mismatch, supply side the Russia-Ukraine war, then discrepancy in monsoon, demand side changes in consumption pattern. What is the data on the post-harvest losses? Around 74 million ton. What about the fuel price? As per the data, 1% increase in fuel prices increases food inflation by around 0.13%. So what are the causes behind persistent high food inflation in India? Comment on the effectiveness of the monetary policy. Okay. So what will be the introduction for this? Can you define any of the concept? कौन सा definition दोगे? So they have not asked you on inflation, they have asked you on food inflation. But they haven't asked you on overall inflation, they have asked you on food inflation. हाँ, so food inflation का definition तो you can't give. ठीक है? Rather than that, you could give a data-based introduction. ठीक है? So what is the data? See, even if you don't know the data, at least tell me the organization, I will be happy. क्यों देना? Inflation का data कौन देगा? RBI. ठीक है? At least you write that much. As per RBI, the food inflation has more than doubled from average 2.9% between 2016 to 2020 to 6.3% between 2020 to 24. Can we mention Article 47? Yes, you can mention. If you don't have the data, start with the, if possible, DPSP, just like we started in previous question. Okay? So here also you can talk about the food. Food and Agriculture Organization won't give the data on the inflation. It will give on the production. Okay? And it reached as high as 8.7% in April 2024. See, every year you get a data, every month you get a data on food inflation and the CPI, WPI. You always remember inflation is a very core concept in economics. Always remember the trends in the inflation. Okay, every year you get a data in newspaper. So when you mention that reading newspaper is very important in GS-3, so this is what you have to read from the newspaper. Okay? Is it clear? See, as SDGs are basically aspirational. An aspiration or the objective we show in the conclusion. Now, in introduction, we basically either provide the elaboration or the present status. ठीक है? अगर conclusion ही introduction में दोगे तो उसके नीचे लिखोगे. If there is no other option, then you can give. But always never swim against the tide. ठीक है? Yes, sir. Chalo, next. Then the causes. So what are the causes? Tell me the framework first. First, what framework we used for the migration yesterday? What was our first point? Push factors and pull factors. Similarly, for inflation, what are the types of inflation? Yes. So basically, cost push basically means supply side. Demand pull basically means demand side. So first, supply demand mismatch. Yes, supply chain. If you want to prepare two separate points, you can write the demand side separately, supply side separately. From supply side, you can talk about the global supply side disruptions like Russia-Ukraine war. ठीक है. From demand side, rising population. ठीक है. So supply side, the Russia-Ukraine war. ठीक है. Then discrepancy in monsoon. Demand side. Yes. What are the demand side? Changes in consumption pattern. Okay. So our consumption pattern is shifting towards the dairy products, which is the one of the major reason behind rise in the milk prices. Rising population. Now what framework will you apply? Yes, that is because of rising income only. Yes. What framework will you apply? At the beginning itself, I have given you the framework for agriculture. You have to follow the temporal approach. Okay? So at the beginning level, what you need for agriculture, at the beginning, what you need? Input. Okay? So high input cost. What else? After input, what you do? What is the next step after the input? Once you apply the input, harvesting. What happens in harvesting? Post harvest. Losses. What you do after the harvesting? That will come into post harvest losses. Transportation. For transportation, you require fuel. Okay. Rising fuel cost. And what you do by transportation, you sell it into, where do you sell? Yes. So who decides the price in the APMC? Or apart from APMC, where do you sell? Government. Right. So does government policies affect the prices? Government policies. Now you simply substantiate. Okay. So what is the high input cost? Example, 25% increase in fertilizer cost. Why? Where does India import majority of its fertilizer inputs or the ingredients? From Russia. So because of Russia-Ukraine war. What is the data on the post-harvest losses? It's around 74 million ton of food is lost because of poor cold storage capacity. Okay. Then what about the fuel price? Yes, so as per the data, 1% increase in fuel prices increases food inflation by around 0.13%. Then government policies. What are the government policies? MSP and buffer stock, distorting markets. What is the another government policy that impact the food prices? Yes, high MSP. Yes, we already covered. Export. So export restrictions. Example. Yes, sugarcane. Export and import. So if you limit the export, obviously food inflation will decline. But if you restrict the import, in that case there will be increase in food prices. Yes, Ankit, export restriction will decrease prices, but along with export, if we restrict the imports also, because the government has put ban on the imports of certain food products. Okay? Is it clear? So we have total of the 6 points. Yes, distorted weather condition also will come, but that will come. We have already covered in the supply side issue. Okay? Then effectiveness of monetary policy. This is your second heading. Have you understood the approach for questions on agriculture? Yes, coming out of RCEP due to dairy sector. Okay, then effectiveness. Here you just give the brief elaboration. Okay, RBI, the mandate is to limit the headline inflation, right, to 2 to 6% band. Okay? So the positive impact. Okay. So now coming to the monetary policy. So whenever you are addressing the questions with respect to the monetary policy or fiscal policy, okay, cover these aspects. Your dimensions will be 1. Interest rate. 2nd, so interest rate will determine credit, access to credit. 3rd, impact on import and export. Okay. 4th, transmission of monetary or fiscal policy. So positive impact, how can you write the positive impact? Yes, what will be the first point? Yes, impact on currency also. So that will come into elaboration of the import export. Yes, inflation targeting. Okay. So inflation targeting is RBI focuses on headline inflation, which includes Yes, food as well as fuel prices. ठीक है. Second, with respect to interest rate, so that will lead to credit and investment. Yes, credit and investment. For example, the expansionary monetary policy, post-COVID, impacting consumer demand. Then after the credit and investment, what? Just control over import or exports. The example of it, RBI management of exchange rate system or exchange rate during global edible oil crisis. When was it? When was the prices of edible oil were the highest? 2021. ठीक है? Is it clear? Yes. What else? Yes. The investment aspect. Key repo adjustment by RBI determines the flow of investment into the agriculture. Flow of investment, and this in turns determine the productivity. Example, if you want to give, agriculture is added into priority sector lending. Okay. Then the limitations. So what are the limitations? So again, with respect to the limitations of monetary policy, the one of the major limitation is the fiscal policy. Okay. On the one hand, if RBI is trying to control the inflation by increasing the interest rate, and on the other hand, if government is increasing the MSP, then the RBI monetary policy will be ineffective. Okay. So you can mention first point as government policy like high MSP. This makes monetary policy ineffective. Second is with respect to supply side issues. Okay. So the supply side issues as in the recent failure of the distortions in monsoon. Okay. Those. The third, global factors. Same. And fourth and most important is not top-down approach, but the RBI transmission of RBI's monetary policy takes time, whereas the food inflation is very spontaneous. ठीक है. सो आज आपके आलू के दाम सपोज 100 रुपीज हो गए, एंड इफ टुमारो आरबीआई डिक्रीजेस इट्स रेपो रेट बाय 0.5%, ठीक है, देयर वोंट बी मच चेंज इनटू द प्राइसेस ऑफ द ओनियन इन अ डे और टू. ठीक है. सो डिले, yes, transmission delay in monetary policy. Okay. Is it clear? Then you briefly mention the way forward. So in way forward, first always give the way forward with respect to strengthening the storage infrastructure. क्योंकि आपका अराउंड 40% फूड जो प्रोड्यूस हो रहा है दैट इज गेटिंग वेस्टेड. इफ यू reduce that number, then automatically you won't be having any issue of the food security. Okay. So first is with respect to the storage and the substantiation. You can bring greater private sector participation through PPP. And the second way forward you mention enhancing the forward linkages with food processing sector. Okay, this is suggested by Niti Aayog India at 75. Okay, the focus should be on the high value crops or a high value addition. Okay? Yes. And what will be the way forward? Yes. What will be the way forward? Sorry, conclusion. So two way forwards, you remember these. Conclusion. Yes. Question is on food inflation. So what will about the conclusion? Yes. Mention some keyword. Come on. Diversification of supply chain. Okay. You can mention that. What else? Okay. Bit of way forward. Yes. What else? Let's write that one only. So the combination of government efforts and monetary policy can mitigate the impact of persistent high food inflation.